big part of reconciliation, as I've seen it, is just making space for an Indigenous voice or perspective in affairs that affect Indigenous peoples. I mean, it sounds so obvious, right? It's like, if the matter affects Indigenous peoples or it's about Indigenous peoples, well, Indigenous peoples should be, in my view, leading that kind of conversation. A big theme that I think about around reconciliation and certainly try to promote in my work is self-determination for First Nations people. And I think that a lot of, I had a university professor that, you put a set of values on the board in chalk. And the first one was, the solution to this thing is not going to be paternalism, right? So if anywhere that you see paternalism, that's not the solution. So, things like that stick out at me. And, we should be supporting First Nations self-determination, which includes making space for a First Nations voice. And
so what do you see as impeding that? You'd be talking about the Indian Act, for example, and how do you move past that?
I think that, certainly, speaking very practically about the work that, I do, I'm involved a lot in supporting First Nations to build out their own governance systems on their own terms. And that involves, as I spoke about, supporting their self-determination. And to speak very frankly, the Indian Act is just not an appropriate tool in today's day and age to affect contemporary self-government. We've seen, your listeners heard about the story of the Niska Nation, for example. Repatriating that pole. The Niska, are leaders in, they have their treaty. They've negotiated, their governance, and that's something to be celebrated. And I think that other First Nations are on that journey as well, as figuring out a way to use the Indian Act creatively, yes, but also move beyond it into very interesting, reconciliation arrangements that recognize their own governance and their own values.
And that's an important point you make. The Nisga'a Treaty, that was, a while back now. And so when it comes to timelines and things can be, each nation is different. And so how do you approach that then, the specific timelines and processes that each one will take?
And you raise a very important point, because it looks different for every First Nation. I think that's part of the a bad element of the Indian Act is it's a one-size-fits-all. It's a piece of federal legislation that's designed to cover the hundreds of First Nations in Canada, and it's just it doesn't deal with enough specificity to First Nations have such wide-ranging governance traditions in this country, and those need to be enacted in order to realize a vision of self-determination and also realize reconciliation in this country.